Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Welcome everyone to The Last Lap. It is an absolute pleasure to be back on your screens or in your ears if you listen to the audio-only version.
Yeah.
Niran.
The Spotify gang. Hello and welcome everyone.
Kit.
Yeah. We're in England.
What's
today?
What's the occasion?
England massive. Don't know, mate, to be honest with you.
Just fancied it?
Yeah, fancied it. Just fancy being really patriotic today. So, I'll come with a Nigeria top on next week.
Yes!
Yeah. Should I do
Banging
it?
kit.
Yeah. I'll come with a Nigeria kit next week.
And there's a bit of green in today's guest
mate, a hat
shirt.
Yeah, well,
love
last
that.
time I
It's
was
gotta
here, I
represent.
had to wear the whole suit and tie fashion. Now I'm more comfortable in my own
That is true.
corduroy,
He's more
green and
casual
blue
today.
This is my casual clothing. This is my pajamas, basically.
Basically,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
basically.
Likewise with your England top.
You are the Tom Scott of F1 YouTube because that is the shirt. How many of those shirts do you have?
3. I have 3 of these. Absolutely, genuinely.
He's like Fantano as well, who has like the checkered shirt.
But like,
for
I only
every,
it stemmed from it being my favorite shirt, and then I saw it in Debenhams. I saw 2 more of my other sizes. So it shouts.
I was going to say they're gone now.
Yeah, they're fully now gone.
So when those 3 shirts,
well, I only wear it for filming purposes,
Okay.
or when I'm going to sleep before my pajamas, like I mentioned before.
That could be worth
50
an
years.
awful day.
50 years.
Valuable.
This is
Double in
vintage.
price.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vintage.
Matt Amos, by the way, for anyone who
Hi,
doesn't
everybody.
know,
How you doing?
the face, the man, the legend. Thank you for coming along.
No, thank you for having me again. It's good. Yeah, because before we did your last live one of the last race of the season,
We did indeed.
then
Did
did your
the
last
awards
lap
as well.
awards as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So now I can actually be more relaxed, be more
Exactly.
in my own attire, and ready to crack on with the off-season content.
Off season, shooting the shit. And you know what? News has been fairly dry, apart from one big. That's a very good word to describe
So,
it.
and that's Formula E is back this week. That's the big news this season.
Stop popping Formula.
The electrics are back.
I will give it a chance this year. But no, the biggest piece of news that's come out over the last week since we last sat here and spoke.
Young
Andretti.
Andretti ex Cadillac.
Cadillac.
You brought up
I
Cadillac.
did.
Literally.
Yeah.
Was it last week or was it the week before?
It was last week.
It was last week.
I was talking about
You got inside
Escalades.
information, man. Oh, yeah, I know people
But
from Sky
Escalade.
Sports now.
His contacts he's got.
Yeah, man.
The
Andretti
little
called him up,
secrets
was-
you have round by the water cooler. Like
Me and
it's
Mario,
all,
we're
it's
like
all
that.
there.
We're like that.
Cadillac called you up and were like, I just test the waters, mate.
I'm not being funny, right? Cadillac's name was mentioned in rumours, hence why I brought it up. But the idea of a brand like Cadillac being associated with F1 is quite left field, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like what's weird for me with Cadillac. It's back in like the 1950s and 60s is where everyone kind of wanted that Cadillac car because it's the first time where like big car manufacturer like that were producing really nice fancy cars. But it's almost transitioned to the point where obviously it's one of the biggest car brands in America. It's kind of almost going into this Ford kind of manufacturing process where they're very big, very powerful cars, but not desirable, sexy, and I don't want to offend people who have them or anything like that. But that's kind of like
offend all the Cadillac.
Well, it's a bit like
Cadillacers.
it's a bit like for us saying like Uber, like the best car for them is like a Toyota Prius. Toyota Prius is not the best car brand out there, but that's kind of the staple for it, and that's kind of where Cadillac has gone into. So for it to come in, it's kind of a bit left field that it's been announced with it, but at the same time I can understand it because it kind of wants to re-energize its outward like marketing.
And that's what we said as well when we were talking about the car brands that have entered Formula One and like the image that you've then seen it switch to. Like Mercedes was the biggest one. You look at Mercedes like maybe 20 years ago and kind of go,
it's kind of,
it's
Do you remember
an
the
old
old like
car, it's kind of boring.
E-Class from like the late 90s, which with the bug eyes and
totally.
that was an old boy's car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now
you
they're
had
like,
to be 65
to
own it.
literally.
Like, you had to show your passport.
Whereas like BMWs of the time carried a lot more weight. They were like, they were more performance oriented. And I suppose that's part of the reason why, because it feels like this deal between Andretti, who have been trying to get an F1 deal across the line, they've been very vocal for a long time. And a big part of why they weren't maybe taken as seriously as they otherwise would have been is because they couldn't prove that they can deliver the funds because it's a privateer team.
Yeah.
They have now associated with General Motors, which is the
key factor.
revenue-wise,
Yeah.
seventh biggest automotive brand in the world.
Number one pretty much in America.
Yeah. And I guess that GM with Chevrolet, and it's funny how I feel like this deal was probably brokered between Andretti and GM
Yes,
more than
absolutely.
Andretti and Cadillac. But it's interesting that they chose Cadillac instead of Chevrolet.
Yeah. It's a bit of a weird one because, like, obviously the Andretti family, they've been shouting for ages, we've got the funds, we want to be in F1 because everyone in the F1 community is kind of screaming for more teams on the grid. Because obviously, if you look back, 10, 20 years, you had you had 12 teams, 24 drivers. And back then, like the difference between all the teams wasn't great. I mean, we mentioned earlier before today, like had like Virgin, you had like Jaguar, and they weren't all even like
HRT, Marussia,
they were kind of nowhere. Whereas now we're in a completely different era where pretty much obviously you've got the cost caps and you've got the budgets between all of them. Whereas now you look at it and it's like, Jim coming into it, Andretti was sort of shouting, we've got the funds for it. And no one really kind of believed them.
Yeah.
But now they've got a big brand like Cadillac on board with it. It now adds substance to it. Rather than let alone like just General Motors in general, which is kind of a little bit like the Liberty Media of F1, owning also, like Formula E and so often. That's where the deal was more gone with them. Sorry, we got a dog running around here. This Minson's with us today.
Yeah.
If you stay till the end, you'll get to see Minton. Just saying.
That's good.
You're not seeing him yet.
Audience retention.
But so now they've got like this huge car brand on board, which I don't think anyone really kind of saw coming. And that's partly due to, I think, because the season's kind of been over, because obviously when it's during a season, you've got so many reporters, bugging the team principals, bugging owners. But now we've been in this winter period, no one's kind of been investigating that. So that now the fact that Cadillac's come out and been like, this is the big brand we're going to be associating with it, no one kind of really saw it coming. But like, I was surprised because obviously, as you mentioned before, you had Chevrolet. I originally thought Ford was still with General Motors, but you mentioned that before
they're
now out of it. Yeah.
That's the one thing I was maybe a bit surprised about, that they chose of GM don't have that many brands anymore. They sold off Opel, they sold off Vauxhall, Buicks are basically just rebadged Opel now. Like it's Chevrolet and Cadillac.
I guess
I feel like Chevrolet's got more.
Chevrolet does have more like prestige in racing, but I guess they were kind of like, well, because Chevrolet's still in Indy, right? You got Chevy.
Yeah, they do the engine.
And a lot of NASCAR
Chevy
as well.
and
so maybe they were just kind of like, well, Chevy have got IndyCar and whatever. Let's try and push this brand to become a bit more desirable.
Because new
as well
Cadillac,
in Cadillac,
like if you look at go on Cadillac's website, like, go on it today. Have a look on Cadillac's website.
Yeah,
their cars look pretty sick.
Yeah.
Like they're not fat old Escalades anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're a long way.
It's
from
very
that.
close, and I don't want to say this offensively, but it's very close to like Mustangs, kind of in terms of the aesthetic of how the car kind of looks with a more sports car kind of range. It's very big, very bulky, but the power is kind of there.
Yeah, but I mean, some of these electric cars, like there's I can't remember, it's Celestiq or something. It's like an electric car, and it looks like mad futuristic.
Yeah.
Kind of what not BMW, Mercedes are doing with their like electric future cars that it feels like they've kind of they're pushing not just. This is the thing, right? And the same thing with Mercedes back in the day. Yes, they were luxury brands, but there's a difference between luxury and performance.
Yeah.
And I think GM clearly want to reshape the Cadillac brand into not just being, oh, that's an Escalade, to this kind of high performance, not just luxury, big,
expensive. Old guys who go play golf. It's like a this is
and what better place to showcase that than Formula One? Having like a really, because ultimately we've also got to look at the facts here. I mean, like Chevrolet, it's just a name on the car. They're not going to be the ones actually manufacturing any engines or the car parts. That's all looked after by Andretti. It's more the financial backing by
This
GM.
feels like a title sponsorship.
It's basically that. That's
kind of like Afro Sauber.
Yeah, and it's the misconception here is that Chevrolet are not going to come in and become the works team providing the engine. That's going to be looked after by someone else, at least in the beginning stages. Maybe 5 or 6 years down the line, maybe they can do that.
There's talk of Renault or Honda.
Exactly, because we've seen at the moment with like Red Bull, who have got obviously millions of pounds to spend with, but only in like the next 3 or 4 years is when they're actually going to be able to produce their own powertrain. And that's where, they even look into cost cap implications. Right, we'll need to develop this car, build an engine for that, and then we can use that technology and then put it back into our own powertrains. That's kind of the way it works out.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think people need to realize that they're not coming in as a works team. They're very much going to be like a customer team, like you mentioned with Renault as their power supplier, and maybe after 3 or 4 years, then they can actually become a manufacturer once they get the approval from FIA and Formula One.
Yeah, because I feel like right now it feels similar to you got Sauber who run Sauber, you've got Alfa Romeo title sponsor, and Ferrari who are the engines.
Yeah.
And it feels like
at the end of the day, it's a partnership, isn't it? It's like it's branding, and it's a major manufacturer or major brand or car manufacturer entering Formula One, not necessarily as a powertrain supplier.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, at the end of the day, F1 love that. If there's one thing that F1 love, it's a new car brand being like, yeah, man, we want to get involved in F1.
But this is
what the FIA love.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone who watches Formula One loves that.
Yeah.
But the F1 teams themselves
sorry, I didn't mean the F1, I meant F1 management.
Because it means the prize pool is going to be equal to speak.
This is the problem, right? Because I feel like all the sentiment I've seen from fans, from the FIA, I mean, Mohammed Ben Sulayem came out and ruffled some feathers.
Yeah. Like he always does,
Well, the quote from him, it is surprising that there have been some adverse reactions to the Cadillac Andretti news. And we know where those adverse reactions are coming from. They're coming from
teams,
Exactly, F1 internally. But do we think, as a team coming in to take the grid from 10 to 11, potentially 12, the thing is not everyone can come in. I think there's a lot of interest. There's talk of Honda, there's talk of Porsche, talk of Hyundai. There's a lot of different manufacturers. Do we think that, would we be happy with Andretti, Cadillac joining the grid?
Yeah, man, 1,000%. I think for a start, I think 10 teams on an F1 grid is a little bit limiting in terms of the actual quality that's out there.
Yep.
In terms of drivers, I've always thought that I don't think there's enough slots on the grid for the amount of talented drivers that there are that can try and get into F1. I mean, F2 is a bit of a talent graveyard sometimes. In terms of
of course.
Drivers just getting cast aside and ending up somewhere else. But again, it's a brand that brings merit. It's an American brand as well. It's an American car company.
Fully American as well.
Fully
American, technically, we've got Haas, but I wouldn't even then class it as being
they're not even
American.
based in
they're based. Most of them are based in the UK, and then the other half of their office is based in Italy with Ferrari. So it's like even then it's like it's an American brand, but it's not fully American. Whereas this, like you mentioned, would be fully 100%.
Yeah, because they've never really lent into their Americanness.
Yes.
Like when Haas joined the grid, it was what, 2016?
We still haven't seen a Stars and Stripes livery.
Yeah, no, we haven't. And that was the year before Liberty took over as well. So that was the year before the US kind of explosion of kind of interest. And I think as well, there's my understanding from what I've read anyway is that the idea is that Andretti could enter before 2026, potentially. They want to set up their engineering base in the UK. And then they've just broken ground in Indiana for their proper massive $550 million, I think, dollar facility that they want to have all of their IndyCar, NASCAR, F1, everything kind of based out.
Yeah.
So they want to get to that. But right now, it's kind of a question of, I feel like the fan sentiment's there. But I guess for anyone who doesn't understand, why did the F1 teams, I know, I'll leave this to you, Matt. Why internally do F1 teams, not even F1 the organisation, the teams themselves, not want an 11th team?
It always comes down to different factors, and then always it's going to be like it's the same thing with like players not liking the rules of whatever game it's going to be, but ultimately tough shit because you're not the one who's organising the game. If you're the one who's organised F1 and everything, absolutely, then you can go with it. But if you're just a competitor in that sport, which the teams are, you have to abide by what the rules are being set for you. You might disagree with them, absolutely, you're entitled to do that. But ultimately, if you want to play by whatever the Formula One rules or the FIA rules are going to be, that's what you're going to have to do. And I think the main issue here is pretty much like, one of the issues is with the prize pool, where the winnings from whatever you get at the end of the season, that's not going to change in terms of the amounts. That's pretty much going to be now equally spread across 11 teams. So basically, if you come first in the constructors, your first place prize pool money is now going to actually be a little bit lowered because it's still having to be split kind of equally.
It's split between 11 instead of 10.
Yeah. But that's when, like, even teams can, like, rather than arguing, we shouldn't have another team on the grid, it's been more looking to like, okay, why are we giving Ferrari a heritage prize pool when they've come like third or fourth in the
just because they've been here for ages.
Exactly, the same for like Williams, as it were. And it's
do Ferrari still get that? I don't think they. I think they recently knocked that on the head.
Potentially,
or at least significantly dropped it. But what doesn't make sense to me is that there's that whole 200 million buy-in, which is meant to circumvent this. So you pay 200 million to enter, and then that gets split. So 20 mil per team. To account, I guess, for that lack of revenue.
And I believe,
which I also think is crazy, by the way. You have to pay the other teams to get involved in the sport.
But
that's mad.
I believe that is also governed by the FIA because it's more an appeal to enter rather than you can pay 200 mil and then basically teams could be like, thank you, but nah, I'm all right kind of thing. So if you've got enough merit on your application to submit to it, then basically the FIA could waiver that 200 mil so you don't have to even pay the other teams for it. Because if you come in with a strong enough argument, like let's say I'm a really rich person, I've got like billions of pounds, I want to just make a brand new race team. If I'm not shown that I'm not a manufacturer or if I've got any racing history, then of course I would need to pay the 200 mil. It's almost like an insurance contract. Like, no, I'm going to be decent on the grid, as it were. But if
I'm serious.
But if you're like Andretti, who've got huge racing history across multiple championships, not just IndyCar, obviously a little bit with Formula One, and also like Formula E and other sort of championships as well. You've got that designated background. You've got your own home base as well. If you're, and then potentially coming into a manufacturer, if that's not then good enough to kind of waiver the fees, then it's kind of like asking the question, well, what is good enough for you? Because you've got Porsche who are already going to try and buy a team from someone else, which is kind of not a full entry, but it's kind of a side gateway to get into one. But if you're coming in as a brand new manufacturer or a brand new team, if that's not good enough for you, then kind of what is? So that there is that topic of like, you got the 200 mil, which I think for Andretti, they've got enough cash in the bank. They don't need to worry about that.
Oh, Michael Andretti's already come out and said he's got the money.
I personally would like a return to the 90s where anyone in their nan could start a Formula 1 team. And it would just be about whether you could qualify and build like a bathtub into a Formula 1 car. I would like that back. Thank you very much. The start of the 90s was sick.
It is mad to think there was a time where you could rock up to a weekend and not even race, potentially, because
you didn't qualify.
You wouldn't even go
qualify.
And that's the thing. Like, I know there's a degree of fear around, we don't want, like we were saying earlier, like HRT, Virgin, Marussia, these back market teams who don't add anything to the sport, don't achieve anything. I get that, but we are in a different era. There is a cost cap. I don't think that would happen. Ultimately, is it a question of these teams, do they have too much power? Should these teams even be able to have a say? Because I think there's quite a compelling argument for them to be like imagining like the Premier League.
Well, this is
where like teams start divvying out. Oh no, actually we're gonna add another round to the FA Cup. Or something.
So this is the comparison that we give is sort of like from a footballing perspective. You would never get a situation where the FA, for example, or FIFA were like, we kind of want to do this, and the teams were like, we're dipping. But the problem is F1 teams do have that power where if there's a rule they don't like, they can just go, we're just going to dip.
They can veto.
They can just leave. Whereas a Premier League club, if Arsenal weren't happy with a rule that's coming into play in the in the Premier League, or VAR, they weren't happy with whatever, they can't just go, we're leaving football, because no one would go with them.
Exactly.
And it would be the end of the, whereas manufacturers and F1 teams have other ventures.
But they have the power to veto as well. That's the thing. It's written into the Concord Agreement that they have the power, that they have to agree to it. And I think it's McLaren and Alpine that the only two teams who have gone on record supporting Andretti's bid. And this was back when, this was back last year when this was just kind of talk. But I do think that ultimately, if you're Toto Wolff, right? What's in it for you? I'm devil's advocate here, but I think it's fair cop, right? What's in it for you letting an 11th team join? You're going to get less prize money. You've got one extra rival as well. What's in it for you? And I get why there's pushback from the teams, but as far as I'm concerned, the team shouldn't even be allowed. They're entitled to not want it to happen because it takes away a bit of their money and there's an extra rival. I get that, but they shouldn't have that power as far as I'm concerned.
And
I don't think F1 needs to give that power away anymore like it used to like Ferrari.
Because I think F1's a much more admirable sport to be involved in. Like, it's not
definitely
every single manufacturer wants to be involved in Formula 1 realistically to some degree. Like Honda just keep flip-flopping back and forth and whatever. I feel like F1 are underestimating themselves and they need to take back that power from the teams realistically. Like you said, there's no way that the team should be able to have a say on someone else joining.
So
obviously they're going to say no. They don't
and
want
also,
to,
the Concord Agreement was written in 1981 by Bernie Ecclestone, and it's like the fact that you're still under that ruling of someone who was arguably quite toxic to the actual sport. As good as their aspirations were to try and heighten it a bit more, it's still like there's been rules which we've had to change to modernize it how it works, because the rules back then,
because there have been adjustments. I think there was
I
think the most recent version of the Concorde was 2020. I think.
Yeah,
but it's
even then it's so dated, because obviously it's more reliant on what the TV rights were, and that's ultimately why that whole agreement was brought in, because there was a huge argument between the FIA and Formula One if they should still be working together, because of there's a whole fiasco around the rules and regulations back then, and that's why this Concorde agreement came in, and that's why ultimately Bernie wanted to sell the TV rights to make sure everyone knew this was an entertainment package. And I think going back to your question about Toto Wolff, my kind of whole stance on it is kind of like, you are players in this competition. You can have a disagreement to a point. And there's certainly some things which they can absolutely disagree on with the FIL and F1 about. But if it's adding on like an extra team, I mean, come on. I mean, it's not like Mercedes are strapped for cash or any other of the other teams, as it were. And I think a good example last year when we saw Haas, properly off the pace, it's probably one of the last few times when we're ever going to really kind of see that again. It's Minton. Okay.
So Minton's climbing this. I'm going to grab it.
Yeah, you grab him.
Get him involved. There he is.
We're just hearing.
You can't take him anywhere.
We're hearing pitter patter the whole entire time.
He's trying to climb the set. Look at him. Look at him.
What are you saying about the whole situation, Minton? What's your thoughts on Andretti?
He's a Hamilton fan.
Is it?
Because Ham's his favourite meat. So, aren't you? You're a big Ham fan. Carry on, Matt.
I'm just trying to
to any audio only, you're missing out. But you're really missing out. Right
Subscribe
now.
on YouTube and you'll see the dog.
Exactly.
The question about what Toto is kind of, what's the benefit for him?
Yeah.
There won't be anything at all, apart from new competition, basically. All the benefit is going towards the consumer who's consuming the product, and then also Formula One to get more eyeballs in, especially in the American market, which is ultimately the whole reason why they're kind of wanting to do this.
And the FIA clearly want this. This is the reason BM's been so vocal, being like it's essentially kind of like putting this stuff public.
Yeah. He slapped it on Twitter. He was just like, we're searching for a new team.
Literally.
And it kind of forces the teams to kind of react.
Yeah.
Which I respect that. I appreciate that. I think he's done a good job.
Having more teams on the grid certainly helps with more rates. I mean, we've got Monaco back here, right? If you had another two more teams here, right, that means you've got 4 more extra cars. That ultimately means you've then got loads more opportunities for overtakes, and it's one of the
I don't think Monaco was the best.
Look, if you're all concertinated together, you've got more opportunities.
If there's enough
to go
cars on the track, you will get overtakes at Monaco. I hear that.
Totally.
More blue for logic.
Track. I know that's not the way we've now fixed Monaco. See you later, everybody. We're off now. We've sorted it out. No, that's not the clear. That's not the clear answer to it. But having more teams and having more different drivers into it, that's going to ultimately help.
Well, what's the perfect number of teams?
I'm up for 24.
24 teams.
No, sorry, 24 drivers, 12 teams.
What is this?
No, you know what? I hear it.
24
cars on the grid.
Around Monaco as well.
24 drivers, 12 teams is what I meant to say.
Yeah. 12 teams, I agree.
Because we've had it before, and I know before it hasn't really worked, but back that you can't compare it because there's different monetary backing with all those different teams, where now we're in a point where all teams are within 3 seconds of each other. I think that's kind of where it works.
When we had 12 teams before, obviously, it was HRT, Marussia, Caterham, wasn't it, when they all entered? But because we were going to have the cost cap then. They were going to do a cost cap in 2009.
You're right.
2010.
Yeah.
Decided, everyone was like, nah, all the original teams were like, absolutely not, we'll all leave.
Because they had the power.
To
veto that, yeah.
And then obviously at that point, that's when you ended up with all the new teams being absolutely fucked because they were completely off the pace, didn't have the finances to compete with all the big teams. But we actually do have a cost cap now.
Yeah.
So realistically, any team that comes in, whilst they might be off the pace a little bit, maybe at the start, does have the opportunity to catch up.
And we also do have the rules now where not any team can just buy their way in. That's literally what we're kind of seeing at the moment. That's why Porsche is struggling to get in. That's why they're having to go through a different team, maybe with AlphaTauri or whatever it might be. Same with Audi having to buy over the stakes from Sauber. It's because it's so hard to kind of get into it because they're very much closely knit. And this is the first time we've properly seen it where a brand new team are coming in as a brand new entry. And that's why we're seeing all this kind of pushback, not necessarily from the FIA or what with Mohammed in particular, but with FIA, with the Formula One themselves, because it's a new venture. No one really knows what now is the rules and regulations with this because it's been so closely knit for so long.
I'd be surprised if Formula One, the organisation, aren't supportive of it, because I feel like another team, especially with it, again, we talked to death about the growth of US market. There's a lot of people listening, watching in the US, that market has grown so much. We understand that. And I don't think F1 as an organisation would be against it. I get why the teams... Again, they're going to act selfishly. That's their job. We've always talked about this, whether it's Christian Horner, whether it's Toto Wolff coming out with some mad statement. Like, it is their job to protect their interest. I understand that. I get that. But should they be allowed to veto it when it's clearly in the best interest of the sport to expand the calendar? The one thing I would say is that if we're going to say 12 teams is the optimum, right, that's two more teams, that's two slots, right? If one of them is we're going to fill them straight away with the first team that's going to come up and make a lot of noise, I don't necessarily think that's the best move. I think what MBS has come out and said, you open offers, see which offers are going to come in. Say Porsche we want a sole team, manufacturer build, and then Honda wanted to do the same. Would they be more appealing? If you accept the Andretti Cadillac bid, then you've just got one more spot. So I understand that it shouldn't necessarily be jump in at the first team to come about and take your time. But at the same time, the teams shouldn't be involved in.
But equally, I think on the flip side of that, Andretti have been the most proactive in putting together a really solid argument to get themselves into it. So whilst they are the first team to go, we want to do it, whatever. They've gone in first of all, got backlash. They've been kind of pushed away. They've gone, right, how do we make this happen now? Cool, we'll link up with Cadillac, and they've brought that to the table as well.
They're serious about it.
They are serious about it. So I think you've got to take some.
And Mario and Michael,
I think
both ex-F1 drivers.
Exactly, and I think that's where that would be a nice sort of kind of harmony with that. And like you mentioned just before then, it's very much, they're being so vocal about this, more than any other team, because obviously we've heard rumours and stuff with Porsche, but nothing's really been officially claimed by Porsche themselves, because obviously it's all been behind back doors, obviously, where Porsche tried to do a deal.
They registered that trademark.
They tried to do a deal, which is, and that's not even them doing an announcement, that's just people who have been very good at being searching for that stuff. But obviously they tried to do a deal with Red Bull, that fell through because they wanted to have almost like a 50-50 partnership, which for Red Bull makes no sense. But with Andretti, they've been the most vocal about it, and it's kind of almost been like an Uno reverse colour, being like, all right, I've got all the funds to make an F1 team, let me in, and then F1's be like, nah, I don't really believe you. They'll be like, okay, cool. Here's a huge car manufacturer, the biggest one in the US. Now can we have it? And it's kind of like, okay,
you can't really say no.
Exactly. And even the team base that you mentioned before, they've already broken ground. That's going to happen regardless of this F1 venture or not, because they still want to have everything in house, because they've got so many different racing categories they're going to do. But the goal has always been for them to go back to F1, because obviously it's gone from drivers, now they want to be an actual team. They've been the one true family where we've gone from, we were racing drivers, now we've made this huge multi-billion empire.
F1 racing drivers. Mario Andretti has a world title, 1978.
Exactly,
Michael Andretti drove a whole season in 93 alongside Ayrton Senna. They have caliber. They have names to them. No, I'm not disagreeing at all. I just think that F1 and the FIA owes itself to do exactly what MBS has said and taking everyone's offers, weigh it up, because I think they've gone above and beyond.
But this is the thing.
Sure. So they deserve an opportunity on the grid.
So this is I'll pose this question to you guys. So you've got Andretti Cadillac here, who have got huge racing backing, have got experience, as you said, with their drivers, but it doesn't really translate, because they're obviously they're not the ones driving themselves.
No, of course.
Anything. But so you've got this huge racing
heritage.
If you've got this huge racing background, they've got a racing company, they've done multiple championships, won Indy championships, what have you, like that. And are building a team base for this. If they then get denied by F1 and the FIA or whoever party it is, what else does a team need to do then to get entry into Formula One? Because if that's not good enough for you, I'm struggling to figure out what.
Because even the idea of it's got to be an actual car brand just doing everything, bringing powertrains in as well. That is basically the only thing above and beyond what's being offered here. Because you've got a car brand in Cadillac being involved in it. You've got a heritage name in Andretti. You've got a team that's gone off and won championships and done well in other areas and aspects of motorsport.
What more can they do?
They've got the funds.
It's like at work, you're going for a promotion and you're given all these KPIs to deliver, and you deliver on every single one, and then your boss is just like, nah, sorry.
Yeah, we've gone with it. We've
didn't give me a cover letter.
Yeah,
sorry.
We've hired from outside, mate. Sorry about that.
There's no good reason for them not to accept it.
Yeah.
I think that's the agreed.
Apart from, I don't think there's a more underwhelming name of a car company than General Motors. We make motors just generally speaking. Generally, cars might be made here. Don't know.
For your whisk, for your electric whisk, we'll make your motor for that as well. Like, whatever needs a motor, we're there.
Yeah,
right.
Motors.
We're so generous.
Luckily, their name is not going to be planted on the actual team sheet. It's going to be. It's going to be.
I reckon
General Formula One.
Yeah.
We are the general team for the general fan. No, I think it would be Cadillac Andretti. I think they'd market it like
probably,
that.
But,
okay, so we've talked about that. Let's just say it is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do we think that team would look like?
Yeah, what's the driver lineup?
What's the drivers?
Yeah.
So
what's the team
this
principal?
opens up a whole other can of worms because of the whole super license issue we've had with AlphaTauri and Colton Herta.
Because Colton Herta is getting mentioned a lot.
But this is the thing. So obviously for those who don't know, they very much appealed, or AlphaTauri very much appealed to get him a super license points for it and to get entry into being able to drive a Formula car, and he was denied that. So basically, he's now signed, I believe, with Andretti until 2026, 2027. So he's
in IndyCar.
He's looked after by Andretti, so he can drive anything Andretti.
But he's also with McLaren, isn't he?
Yes. So, but he's very much under the blanket name of that. So even if he doesn't have a drive for 2026 with IndyCar, he can still do something else with Andretti.
Yeah.
So it means if Andretti get approved by F1 and FIA to actually drive it, he very much is in line to drive for the F1 car. But the issue at the moment is that he doesn't have a super license to actually be able to drive the actual car, which means next season he needs to then work either in IndyCar or whatever to actually then get a super license to then drive in Formula One, because it's all well and good having an American driver, but if you don't have the points for it or have the recognition from the FIA, then it's kind of like it's a whole gamble for kind of both of them, really.
So the thing obviously for me is obviously it depends on how well you do in a championship, how many super license points you pick up at the end of the season, right? But Colton Herta has been in IndyCar for a little while now.
Yes.
For me, as just like as I watch a bit of IndyCar as well. Am I right in saying that IndyCar gives you less super license points than Formula 3?
Yes.
Because it's
Formula
not,
3.
Or is it just F2?
It gives less than F2.
It's less than F2, but similar to F3, I believe.
You get 2 super license
Keyboard
points.
Warriors, let me know if I'm wrong in the
If you
comments.
finish 10th in F3, you get 2 super license points. If you finish 10th in IndyCar, you get 1. Facts.
Yes.
In IndyCar.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the higher end, you get 40 for winning IndyCar. You don't get 40 for winning F3.
F3, right, fairs.
But it's mad because it's not an FIA championship. But Colton's in a really difficult position, right? Because super license points are only valid for the 3 seasons prior, right? So going into 2023, it'd be 2022, 2021, 2020, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not joining the grid in 20. So if we look into 2024 at the earliest, Colton finished 3rd in IndyCar in 2020.
Yeah.
Those points won't be valid anymore.
Yeah.
And that's his best finish.
And that's why I'm saying this season now he's about to go into is going to be the pivotal one for him.
He needs to get points.
That's where both him and Andretti need to work their asses off to get it to working, because this is the one moment, literally it's going to be like, all right, you're in the last round, go for it. It's like, this is your one season to get you into F1. If you can't do it now, then there's no chance.
Herta finishes 2nd in IndyCar, he won't have enough points.
Yeah.
He needs to do, which he can, we saw it with Logan Sargent last year, didn't we, tail end. You can do FP1 sessions to get one super license point per session.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like...
So hang on a second.
It's going to be mad tough.
So if you finish 10th in a whole IndyCar season, you get the same super license points as doing FP1 for an hour and a half.
Yeah. You have to do like 100 miles,
where money talks of being in my own organisation, but then money doesn't talk if you've got enough to try and get buying into a team.
IndyCar's not an FIA championship.
Yeah.
But another driver, because Andretti have gone on record saying they want at least one American driver. If they do get on, they want one American driver minimum. Obviously, Logan will definitely have the super license points. They could snatch him from Williams, maybe. The other main name who's finished 2nd in IndyCar in 2022 and 2021, but I don't know how much you two know about him, Joseph Newgarden.
He used to race
handsome man.
Is he?
Very handsome.
I've never seen him.
Yeah.
I'll get involved.
If I could steal someone's face, I would steal his face. Go on, what are you going to say?
He used to race in the UK, I think. He used to do like
yeah, I think he did. Yeah, but he's like 32 now, I think. So
yeah. So he's done like Europe. He'd know European tracks and stuff like that. British tracks.
They could get Newgarden for sure. He's comfortably got the points.
This is what I love about this whole conversation about the whole new American market. I know jack shit about IndyCar. I know a few drivers, obviously Romain Grosjean and Felix Rosenqvist, because I used to know him back in the day. But like, it's like these new drivers, I just generally don't know who they are, and I know they've got huge heritage behind them. But that's why I'm so excited for Andretti to come into it, because it's introducing me to this new market. Likewise, the American audience being introduced to Formula One, where like you're talking about this guy who's came second in the championship. I don't know who he is, but I'm actually really excited because I don't know about who this person is.
He's one of the most established IndyCar names.
And I feel bad for not knowing it. And that's where I feel like if he was to come into it, like I'm an F1 fan, I don't know who he is, but this new person coming into the block, coming onto the grid, ruffle some feathers and disrupt the way the current way of working with Formula One is. That makes it really exciting to me.
It's just been very limited for American drivers to get involved into Formula One, because you have to do that European route. You have to do that sort of Alexander Rossi kind of just like.
It's incredibly difficult to get in if you don't do that route.
If you are American and you want to stay in America and do like Indy Lights and IndyCar, like that's it. Your roadblock. It's
in
a roadblock.
F2, you can finish third and you still get enough points. You still get 40 super license points.
Yeah.
It's mad. You finish second in IndyCar, you get 30. And IndyCar is so much more stacked with talent. It's obvious. It's not, the super license should be about like merit. It should be, you've proven you're good enough.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about the politics of the FIA. That's bollocks. It shouldn't be about that, but it is clearly.
Absolutely.
Look it up. Go on Wikipedia. Look it up. It's nonsense the way it's spread out. And this is the problem. If they want an American driver, the guaranteed names are very, very restricted.
And even you're also seeing it now with like Indy Lights, where Jamie Chadwick is going to Indy Lights because like the opportunities within F3 just aren't good enough, because absolutely she could race for like a team in F3, but it's not going to be one of the higher end teams. And so she's done an awesome job of finding a really good team in Indy Lights, because she just wants a really good racing career. She wants really good racing battles. And that's where, because like F3, it's good battles, but Indy Lights is much better because it's got almost a better pathway than kind of what Formula One is doing. Because like you mentioned before, it's very much, if you've got Formula in your title and it's looked after by FIA, it's so pigeonholed of like, it's just European drivers. And like Logan Sargent is one of the very few drivers from the States who've been able to come through there. And I'm so glad he's in there. But it shouldn't be taking this long to do that.
Just by the way, just to put it into perspective, I just checked then the standings for the 2022 season. You spoke about how obviously IndyCar is definitely not as easy as Formula 2.
No.
I mean, they're both not easy, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a lot more
there's a lot more talent there. Marcus Ericsson finished 6th in the 2022 season, and Romain Grosjean finished 13th. I know it's also based on how good the team you're driving for is.
Of course.
Yeah.
Imagine Romain Grosjean went into F2 tomorrow. He's not finishing 13th in the championship.
No,
it's not happening. And also,
it's mad.
Yeah.
He probably finished higher than 13th in the championship in Formula 1.
Like Grosjean's proved his ability in F1, and he's racing in the Spec Series now. And
he's done all right. I think he's gotten pole once and stuff, but he hasn't won. And he's been crashed out numerous times.
Ericsson's won one race.
But they're being competent and they're showing they've got their worth. But I agree what you were saying, that there is like, okay, if they're coming like regularly like 6th or 7th on average, then fucking hell, I can't wait to see who's first and second are doing it if they're going to jump in an F1 car. Absolutely bits from that. And also you've got to remember as well, IndyCar, the main thing to remember with this is that most of the tracks they go to are street circuits. You've got some ovals, yes, you've got some proper made circuits, but most of the places they're going to, they're bumpy as shit. And like, it means they're having to deal with so many extra pressures. And that's why a lot of times when you see the IndyCar drivers, they're built like tanks. I mean, like I'm like a George Russell kind of figure here, a little skinny and what have you, as it were. Yeah. But like the guys in Indy, they have to do so much more exercise and like work. I know obviously F1 they do a lot of neck training and such, but a lot of the time they're having to work out to fit into the cockpit to work well. With IndyCar, they're just having to sustain. I know they've got high suspension, but a lot of the time they have to work out a lot more physical strength because they do have power steering. But at least then it's still like you're still having to work the crap out of it. So I think them coming to F1, they probably most of the time would be like it's going to be a little bit easier. Obviously, there will be a transitional period they have to do with that. And then we've seen that a little bit with like, the Abu Dhabi tests at the end of the season where someone from, I can't remember his name now.
Palo,
yeah. That's why he did his first proper test in F1. And obviously the times aren't great, but you can't really tell from testing times anyway.
Palo did a great job in Austin.
Yes.
when he took FP1.
Yeah,
And
exactly
Ward had
that.
his first shot out as well.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of drive. But like, which drivers do you think Andretti gives an opportunity to? Like Mick Schumacher, for example, for Daniel Kvyat. Like,
it's kind of a shame for them, actually. You just mentioned Palo. It's kind of a shame for them that McLaren have kind of taken a lot of the guys that have actual experience on a lot of the tracks that Formula One race on.
Yeah.
Because Palo could just jump in an F1 car tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, I know like
100%
of the tracks here. Because he raced in F3 and F2.
Palou Newgarden would be a sick little lineup.
But like you mentioned before, it goes back to
so.
the Alpine contract sort of situation. It's like they're locked in now, and unless you want to do a whole like big divorce over like social media and stuff, unfortunately, it won't.
It's like
really
an all-American team coming in with 2 IndyCar drivers.
That would be sick.
That would be sick.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
But like, I don't think
Herta's no more attached to McLaren than Palou is, as far as I'm aware, anyway, because they're both test drivers.
Isn't
with
Palou
McLaren.
not even racing for McLaren
No,
anyway?
he's mostly with Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think it's Chip Ganassi anyway. But like, it's not with. He doesn't race with McLaren. Aaron. That's what.
But that's when you. That's where you can.
O'Rourke.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's when you can open up the roster to even more guys who are racing in IndyCar. Like for example, I will always have a favourite in like Felix Rosenqvist, just because he's a really competent racer and stuff. But then you talk like Marcus Ericsson. You know, he won Indy 500 just because like it was on pure pace because he was fucking lightning quick on it. But yeah, then it's like. I think obviously like Roman Grosjean, I think he'll be too old by the time the opportunity comes around. No offense, but it is what it is. But I do think Andretti would probably want to have someone who is a young Indy driver, but then they want someone who's probably experienced, who's probably already existing F1 driver. But then it's going to kind of figure out who it is. I can't see that in Mick Schumacher, unfortunately. Maybe it might be even like looking at someone from Haas, maybe potentially.
Yeah, because do we think this is an opportunity for a driver to move to a new exciting team who's already in F1 or someone who's on the sidelines like Mick to get a seat?
It's going to be
I think it's going to be someone that's already in it.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to go in and you want like
developing the car,
developing the car and immediate results, I think you've probably got to try and go to a couple of drivers who are maybe definitely second string at their existing team and go. Oh,
Sebastian Vettel, come back. Here he goes.
Yes. yeah. Make it happen. The gas guzzler.
Mate, that'd be
along with
the
team principal of Sebastian Vettel.
F1 Twitter would melt if that happened. If Seb announced his return with because I guess the most recent example, you look at Haas, right, when they joined in 2016, and they hit the ground running. Yeah. Like they were solid midfield as soon as they joined, and they had. Who did they have? They had Grosjean and was it Gutierrez? I think they didn't have Magnussen then.
Yeah,
but they had two drivers with.
Yeah, I forgot Esteban Gutierrez.
I think it was Gutierrez because it was because they were both because they were. I think they were. It just came from Lotus, didn't they? So
and this was pre-Coscap era, remember?
Yeah,
and they were still competitive. That's what's like.
Well, yes, because they had the previous years to build up all this resource.
They took their time.
And the engine spec was the exact same.
They bought all the old parts from Marussia. Took their time.
Yeah,
and. Did you hear that?
What was that?
I don't know.
What was that?
His sound though. Why are you making noise on the podcast? He's snoring.
He just snored and then just suddenly woke up from his own snore.
It's all our audio only. He literally just woke.
Maybe in
himself
post we can boost like the levels up from that if you can hear it or something. That was a big.
Loud.
He's already gone to sleep again.
He's sound though.
He heard Esteban Gutierrez. He's like,
oh, savage. Poor Esteban.
It's true.
No, but I do because that's the thing. I do think that. Regardless of the name coming in, like I've got no. You can argue that a Porsche or a Honda maybe have more brand power and more kind of heritage in F1 than a Cadillac, for example. Yeah. But Andretti have heritage. There's no doubt in my mind that they could come in and do bits.
Everyone's got to come with
Porsche coming into F1, I would love to see because I feel like that they would be like the futuristic brand. I know Mercedes are trying to do that a little bit, of being like, oh, we're in the future, but like, no, I can see Porsche very much coming in because obviously they've got the WEC program they're doing and stuff, obviously with Formula E, and I can very much see them being like, no, we're going to be trying to develop this new kind of hybrid sort of or whatever technical regulations are going into. But yeah, like I'm just excited for it because I think they are going to win the application for it, whether they pay the 200 mil or whatnot.
I think they'll get in.
Yeah,
I think they can. Yeah. I think with Cadillac is back, and I think they can do it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I'm on the General Motors. I'm a General fan from now.
Up the Generals.
Up the Generals.
I can imagine General Motors like merchandise is just like a green fleece with a little logo there.
She's going to slap, man. I'm buzzing for the Andretti Cadillac. He's coming. But outside of teams that are new to come in, I did want to briefly talk about McLaren because I've seen a bit of talk online about McLaren's momentum. You look at 2022 they finished 5th in the constructors. 21 they finished 4th
in the constructors.
2020 they finished 3rd. Obviously helped by Ferrari fumbling the bag. They've lost Andreas Seidel as well.
Yes.
The new wind tunnel delayed because of COVID, so it's still not here yet. That won't. The 2023 car is still going to be based off their current wind. I think it's Toyota's wind tunnel that they use at the moment. I've got to be honest. I'm a bit concerned. I just wanted to bring it up because I wanted to see what you guys thought in terms of McLaren's momentum kind of going forward, I guess.
I fully understand why Andres moved because he's already got those links, with like Audi, with working prior. So I can understand why he's made the move. However, I do agree that it is causing some red flags that the team leader, the team principal, the way he works is very different to how other different team principals have gone about it. But to have such a huge figure like himself and also Ricciardo as well. I know he's not as instrumental anymore, but having those two big characters of your team go, it's kind of left on your own a little bit. That you've still got Zach, who's kind of obviously he's also the main owner, and you've got Lando Norris as well. We've got this new driver Oscar Piastri. You've got this new team principal who I don't know, I can't remember his name.
Andrea Stella.
Yeah. That's going to be hard. Andrea
Stella.
Anyway, he's from the technical background, if I remember correctly.
So he was at Ferrari for a long time. He was Fernando's race engineer for years at Ferrari, and then he's been like senior at McLaren for a while.
Yeah,
I just think cool, he's coming in,
but it's also the team already. It's not like a new person as well. Like they already know who he is.
They do know.
It's promotion from within.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just like it's kind of what we've seen with Binotto. It's like, can this person become the team leader? It's not about striving the team. You need a proper leader to put you in the right direction, and that's why Binotto, in my opinion, was not the correct choice for Ferrari.
Yeah. Even though he's so knowledgeable and
you got all the ingredients there to make something good, but if it's not gone into the right direction, then there's no point for it, and that's what we kind of saw with Ferrari. But then with McLaren, if you don't have the right leader there, that's why I'm always bit hesitant, but obviously we don't know where team principals you can't just get a pool of team principals from and pick whoever you want to be the best leader. But it's ultimately, can this new Andres come in and be able to drive the team into that winning direction?
You know what? It's interesting actually. When you said about the constructors' sort of decrease over the last couple of years, and it's not crazily drastic or anything. You kind of expect McLaren to be at this point in their lifespan to be in that 3rd to 5th bracket, right? I just didn't even realise that there'd actually technically been that drop of each year, and I feel like that's something that's actually gone under the radar. Because for me, I've always maintained I think that McLaren are going to be the next team, in this cost cap era, that kind of make their way up towards winning races on a regular basis. I don't trust Alpine to not just fuck it up at the.
If you look, that's more down to the reliability.
With Alpine, with Alpine, especially last season, the pace was definitely there. It shouldn't have even been a battle realistically for 4th in the Constructors' Championship.
Shouldn't have.
The fact that it was is a fumble from them.
But that's what I mean. That is, look, Ferrari fell off in 2020, right? We all appreciate that, and that was a big part of why McLaren were able to finish 3rd. But also, Alpine did clearly outdevelop McLaren and had a stronger racing car.
Well, I mean, if you look at the start of the season, obviously I was quite invested in how McLaren were doing this season, but that first Grand Prix at Bahrain,
oh my God,
was a big concern.
We all had to have a big hug afterwards.
We all
like, all right, see you later, everybody. Might as well just write us off.
We're taking the year off, lads. Views are down. That's literally So. From that perspective, when you compare it to the first Grand Prix of the season, obviously they've maybe just been a bit of a victim of the regulation change in comparison to like a Ferrari who's absolutely smashed it, Alpine who clearly made big strides as well. But there's definitely got to be a bit more of a positive direction next year.
Well, I just think there's more of a challenge from behind now, because Aston Martin's momentum was fantastic by the end of the year. You've got Andreas Seidel, who's gone to Alfa Romeo,
and then you're going to have that Audi backing over the next few years as well.
And they're
literally,
and I can speak firsthand, their headquarters they've got in Germany is insane.
Yeah, been there,
because I've been lucky enough to visit there, because my old race team, Envision Virgin Racing, I used to go to, we used to test track at their place in Germany,
right?
And as soon as you walk in, it's insane. I've been.
Wait, so this isn't Himwell, not the base in Switzerland? Did you mean
Switzerland? Yes, sorry, Switzerland, I believe.
I was like, you
not
went to the
Germany,
wrong
not Germany.
country, man.
Same language, different thing.
Yeah, so Audi.
I was like, they're in Germany?
I was there for 2 days. I was very hungover the first day, so I can't remember.
He doesn't know what country he was in.
You don't speak English here. What's going on? No, but the facilities they have there.
Brexit. It's a Brexit episode. Fucking hell.
What's all that? Where's fish and chips? Come on. No, but the facilities there was insane, and they've got so many different test tracks they have on, and then in their configuration. It's a little bit like Ferrari with their own test track as well. And they also literally have water sprinklers where if you want to test out wet weather racing, they have the sprinklers coming out, and it's insane.
Wet dream, man.
Exactly that, yeah. So they're fully prepped for it. That's why I'm really, really gassed up about how they're going to do with it.
Well, there's a reason that Audi went to them after they went to McLaren.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like they tried to, buy out McLaren. That was the initial idea for Audi. But
there's a huge financial issue as well, because there's parts where they had to actually start selling off their old heritage cars from the MTC.
Yeah.
Because they literally
they were relying on that Bahrain kind of fund. What was it? I think it's Bahrain.
Something along those lines. But it's because they're lacking funding, and that's purely just due to COVID. And even when you got somewhere like the MTC, which is like one of the most iconic pieces you could look at in terms of a team a home base, when they're having to flog their own cars, it's just because it's that. But
I just think this is such. I know you can say this about a lot of teams, but I think it's such a pivotal year for McLaren to prove that they can maintain their strong position at the front of the midfield with all this pressure from behind. Even like a team like AlphaTauri, you got to think they're probably going to somewhat turn it around. Like they had a bit of a shocker, but they know how to deliver a good car. I worry that if McLaren don't switch it on now, you look at all the momentum behind Aston Martin at the moment. You look at Alpine have got a strong package, and Renault, they are one of the biggest.
Strong driver lineup.
We write off Alpine all the time, but they're essentially Renault's one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world. They've got that support there. McLaren is still a privateer team, and it's I am concerned, and we've talked about this before on the podcast about Lando and how he's doing an incredible job, and McLaren needs to prove to him that
more than anything,
because he's got that deal,
but now you've got a rookie as
contracts can be bought out. It happens. You know what I mean? Piastri's an unknown. I just feel like there's a lot of I don't really have a team that I particularly pull for, but I would say if I had to pick any team, I'd probably say McLaren because of the history and a couple of times.
I think
England and all that.
I personally think they're going to be comfortable P4, maybe
Do you
P5
think,
in Yeah,
I wouldn't put money on it.
Just purely because there's been so much hype around Oscar Piastri. Lad's only driven the car once with the Abu Dhabi test.
Pay the bills? Does hype pay the bills?
Hype does not pay the bills.
Can I go to my landlords and be like...
The only thing I can see going forward is that because he's a rookie, rookies are able to adapt a bit more to cars and such. That's where I think Ricciardo massively struggled.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is the only F1 car that Lando's ever driven. So he's not going to know anything different. Obviously, the car's been tailored around him. Although Lando very much has been negative of how the actual car drives. It's not as optimum. It's not great. Can Oscar come in driving a brand new machinery and be able to get to the same level as Lando in this first season? For me, no. And I would love to be proved wrong.
Of a season out as well.
That would be a huge ask.
And exactly. But this is the thing. That's what McLaren are needing, and that's what they're wanting from that. And there's been so much drama around this whole tweeting bullshit going on with the whole Alpine stuff.
Yeah, but it's funny though.
And it's so funny to watch. It's seeing a house on fire. You can't just stop the car.
We still got Drive to Survive to come.
Totally.
We haven't even got Drive to Survive.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it's you got all this pressure, and now it's going to be I don't think it's going to be the pressure on him. I think everyone's just expecting him to be up here when actually it's going to be more reality down here.
Yeah.
And it's not me slating on Oscar's actual performance. I really rate him as a driver. I just think people have so overhyped the situation. Even that's why we're talking about it now, because it's been so overhyped.
Yeah.
That I think there's going to be an unnecessary expectation.
For example, is deserved.
It is deserved.
You look at Logan Sargent. If he performs P10, for example, at Williams, everyone's going to be doing absolute bits. If he gets P18, that's expected because you're in a Williams. If you're looking at Oscar Piastri, if it's the same expectations around, you're going to look at him more negatively because you think he's doing worse because of the car he's in.
For what it's worth, there's a slight grain of salt situation when it comes to McLaren in terms of constructors level. Because, no offence, Daniel Ricciardo, that might, to an extent, might as well have not even been there for the second season.
Yeah.
You're looking at a one-driver team, really, that kind of competed with Alpine. If Oscar can come in, he doesn't need, say Lando's here, he doesn't need to be here. he just needs to be like here. And that's better than Ricciardo who was here.
Yeah, if Ricciardo was
going
there,
to be honest, he just needs to be somewhat providing some points where Daniel wasn't last season.
Yeah.
And you will see a massive jump, I think. They're not as close to, like they were, if we're going to be honest, a level above Aston Martin in terms of what Lando could provide very regularly, pretty much every Grand Prix.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that Daniel was like, kind of on the edge of the points or outside of the points for a lot of the season. If Oscar can do anything to even come moderately close to Lando, then it might not be.
If you had 2 Landos, the team would be doing.
If you had 2 Landos, the team finishes easily 4th in the constructors.
It's just, I just think that next year, I think, in 2022, you had Alpine, McLaren, and they were very kind of established competitors.
Yeah.
They were close to each other. Alpine had an advantage pace-wise, but also more on reliability.
Yeah.
I think next year, I think Aston Martin are going to be up there.
Yeah.
Based off of their pace in the second half, like you have to look at your most recent race.
Of course.
And Vettel was extracting mad performances out of this Aston Martin. They should have comfortably beaten Alfa Romeo by the end if it wasn't for the strategy bollocks up at Abu Dhabi.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like Aston Martin I'm sure will be part of that top end midfield conversation.
Yeah.
At least maybe even Alfa Romeo as well. If they can replicate what they did at the start of the year.
Base being built at the moment as well, which is not going to be ready till next year.
So then it could be 14.
Yeah.
I just feel like if McLaren could easily, I think they could easily slip to 7th in the constructors next year.
Ooh.
I think they could easily do that.
Who else though?
Wow.
Because they would
Behind Alpha and because they finished 5th.
behind Alfa Romeo as well.
Alfa Romeo and behind Aston Martin, they could.
This is a sneak peek for Tommo's predictions at the for this year.
I'm not saying it will happen.
Because you didn't get anything right last year, so actually continue saying it.
I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying it could. It could happen. You look at Aston Martin's pace at the end of the year; they caught up.
Yeah.
They all in all caught up. If Alfa Romeo can sort that, and they've got Seidel, they've got McLaren's guy. They took him.
I hear Aston.
They nabbed him.
I don't hear Alfa Romeo.
Yoink.
They don't have the driver lineup for
this
it.
is out. This is
It's
the
not
last year.
Audi yet,
This is the
though.
last year of Alfa Romeo. Everyone knows
exactly.
they're coming.
Yeah,
Audi are coming.
Not now, not next
coming.
season though.
They're coming.
After that,
Quick
maybe.
question though, talking about Aston real quick. I just want to get your opinion on it. Obviously, Alonso's coming in. If Alonso is outperformed by Stroll,
It's not going to happen.
this is the thing. It's like
He has to retire.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. No, if that
I
did
didn't want to
happen,
say it.
that's it, done.
No, I think it's back to Indy for Fernando.
Yeah, that's
All
it,
I'm
done.
on saying.
But
I can't see that happening. He was like genuinely so fucking unlucky last season when it comes to.
Just the reliability.
I mean, Jesus Christ!
So
Was
bad
it
for him.
Sixth retirement.
Jeddah, Singapore? Did he break down in Singapore?
They both broke down at track as well.
Mexico as well.
Technically Austin, but not really because they disqualified him, but,
Yeah,
not,
but
then
then
they
they
didn't.
undisqualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just so
The
many
one
missed
time the
opportunities
car
there.
worked, he destroyed it and he still finished the race.
There is no shame in being beaten by Fernando Alonso. Like to say a
Lance, we're looking
driver's
at you.
gonna get
Depending on his age, yes. Yeah.
like, no, but like any driver. Like I'm not being funny. The amount
Mario Andretti comes back into the car at 83 years old.
Alonso.
They won a championship, lads.
No, but there's no shame in that. But I just look. All I'm saying is I can see if they're not on it, if they're not on their job,
Yep.
it could happen.
No, they do have to be on their job. I just think, for me, the driver lineup of McLaren is
On paper, it's
so much
Different
better than, say,
gravy.
Alfa
Can't
Romeo,
wait.
and so much more balanced still for me than Aston Martin.
Yeah.
That even if the car is fine, is behind Alpine, which it could easily be, well, it was last season. It was just the reliability that let Alpine down. Still, for me, I think you've got 2 drivers that can really extract incredible amounts out of that car.
Yeah.
Aston, you've got 1 driver who can extract a lot, and Alfa Romeo, you've got. They're just going to be on the level of the car for me.
23 is going to be
I can't wait for
I'm
this
so
season.
excited. And now it's actually 2023. If I look at my phone, it's like, 2023.
Yeah, it's that period though when you were at school and you'd write 2022 down and you'd be, oh shit, you'd have to write the 3 over the top of it. We were
like,
still in that area
towards
right
the end of last year, I was still writing 2021. I'm like, oh, are you 2020? Yeah, we are 2020. Now it's
Yeah.
23, and I'm
Also,
rubbish,
we've had
yeah.
a bunch of the car launches announced as well.
now.
We have. I think it's like 5 teams now.
Yeah, like middle of February.
I think
Pretty much all of them.
McLaren are the most recent one to do it, to announce it. So
Yeah, McLaren, Red Bull,
Around
Aston
Valentine's Day or
Martin.
something, it's like
Yeah,
mid-February.
probably.
yeah,
Romance. Right.
All right. That's a different podcast.
Right. Time for Last Lap After Dark now.
Yeah.
OnlyFans content coming right up here.
Peggy 18.
Minton's woken up for it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do some OnlyFans?
Calm down, sausage.
Do you want to do some OnlyFans?
Calm down, sausage. We've just talked
Yeah,
about OnlyFans.
I did.
Oh,
there you
yeah.
go. I said that for a reason. Right, shall we round off with the segment that we typically do at the end of the Last Lap podcast?
I'm very new to this.
The equal machinery segment. Do you want to explain the rules, Niran?
Yeah, so basically, this is where we are all allocated a driver by our producer, Lewis. Producer Lewis over there.
Yeah.
And we have to argue that the driver that we've been allocated would win in equal machinery today.
Oh, fuck. Okay, here we go.
Everybody else's driver.
Even if you don't believe it.
Even if you don't believe it,
God,
at the end
okay.
we have to guess whether we truly believed for each driver.
If I've got Mazepin, I swear to God, I'm going to come right over there. And
Oh, that's been a good idea, actually.
That would have been good, actually. We need to do one, actually, where it's kind of just the worst drivers of recent F1 history.
that would be
against each other.
so good.
So
Absolutely.
Next time, I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Get onto that. Yeah, literally like the worst drivers you can think of. And then just, yeah.
Well, look, these three, that's interesting three names, actually.
We've got them tabled on it.
He's already laughing. The producer's already laughing.
Lewis has gone
I want to know I want to actually know the logic behind these.
gone
three, so
against
I've
the
seen them as
grain.
well, yeah.
So I have been assigned Nick De Vries.
Okay, all right,
fine.
fair enough.
Oh.
Niran has been signed Romain Grosjean.
Oh, titting hell.
Oh, mate, good luck.
And Matt, you've been signed Oscar Piastri.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, done it. Just after
As a Ricardo fan.
I feel like Piastri is quite,
Would you want to swap? I'll swap.
No,
Nick
no, no,
De
no,
Vries.
no, no.
I know more about
swapping.
Nick De Vries
No
than you did with
swapping.
Piastri.
No swapping.
God, okay.
What order should we go in?
I've got to do some thinking, mate. So
You know
don't
what?
let me go
I'll
first.
go first, okay? Nick De Vries in equal machinery is better than Grosjean and
Oscar
Piastri. 1 minute in 3, 2, 1, go. Formula 2 and Formula E world champion came in, took like a duck to water to that Williams, delivered points, scoring not 1 point, 2 points in a Williams. That is a sofa. That doesn't even have wheels, that car, and he managed to deliver it. Nick De Vries, consistently at the top of his game, was right up there. George, Lando, Alex. He was only a few points behind Alex in that Formula 2 season as well. If things had gone a little bit different earlier on in Nick De Vries' career, he would have been an established Formula 1 driver by now. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. To jump into that car so late minute and deliver such an incredible result, like all that eyeball and expectation. He knew what he was fighting for, and he managed to get himself an AlphaTauri seat. He delivered when the time was there. Yes, he's not early 20s, but you know what? That's fine. F1 drivers in more recent years have come very, very early on, exceptionally early on. He's coming in at a perfect time, and will he body Yuki Tsunoda? Yes, he will. Done.
Cool. Do we refute straight away, or do we hear everyone's arguments?
Yeah, no, we're going to hear everyone's arguments, I think.
Ah, okay. All right.
I think he might have mentioned Monza there as well, by the way. I think he might have mentioned...
Oh, no, I've got straight
Williams
arguments back to most of the claims you just made there. But,
Okay, well, we'll go with you next, Matt, because
oh, God, I don't know anything about
you
Piastri.
opened your mouth very quickly. So are you ready to...
I don't know
fight
anything about
Oscar
Piastri. I feel very bad, so I'm going to very much blag
He
it.
won F3 and F2 and dominate.
Don't help him.
All right, cool.
Well, I've
Go.
He won F2 and F3.
He didn't just win those two.
No.
What was the other one he won?
It's my time to shine. Wait. Oscar Piastri, obviously.
Got minute,
what
boy.
more do I need to say about him? Literally, he had teams fighting over him because that's how much racing talent he has. He had a year out because he's been absolutely dominant in the simulator. And, you know, every time he's on the F1 broadcast, they can't help but show a light on him. The sponsors are queuing up for Oscar Piastri.
Still got 30 seconds,
This
mate.
is the man who is going to show the team, McLaren, who their real driver is. Lando Norris is amazing, but now Oscar Piastri, the new talent into it. McLaren's a new young team. This is what McLaren and Formula One are needing, not Andretti. Oscar Piastri is where they're going down to it. Honestly, in 2 years' time, world champion material.
10
You got
seconds.
the Twitch quartet. You got your George Russell, Alex Albon. You got your Lando and the other one. But no,
other one.
This is the new generation that's coming into it.
That was the longest minute of my life.
That was sick.
Same for me as well.
Absolutely no facts were brought to the table whatsoever.
Can you tell I don't know jack about Piastri?
That was just passion. You were such a passionate man.
You know what? I respect the fact you kept that
I'm
going
giving
for
the
as long as you
hustle
did.
here. I'm sorry if I blew out the earphones for your audio listeners, but
Roman Grosjean. Niran, you've got a minute starting now.
Right. Do you know what's the most important thing in Formula One, ladies and gentlemen? Experience. This man has a bucket. This man has a bucket load of it. He's been about since, I swear he took his debut like 2009, crashed about a bit. We don't need to talk about that. Came back in 2012, I want to say. Crashed about a bit. We don't need to talk about that as well. This man's raw pace in that Lotus before it went down the shitter was absolutely sensational. Taking it to a Kimi Raikkonen that, sure, had just come back from rallying and shit, but was still sensational.
You're argument so much.
No, genuinely, that season, I think it was 2013, that Roman Grosjean season was actually sensational. Grabbed, I think, 3 podiums, I want to say, in a Lotus that was a little bit off the pace, realistically, from your Ferraris and your Red Bulls and that. And by a little, I mean definitely a lot. Sensational driver. Survived the fucking fireball explosion accident. He's got IndyCar. He did, though. He was the one who drove into it.
He was the one who got out of the car, though.
He got out of the car. Went IndyCar. Yeah, you drive done. Basically any sort of car. I'm carrying on, mate, because it's Roman Grosjean. Give me another 10 seconds.
Wow. That was certainly the most chaotic.
Yeah. We definitely woke up Hinton with that one.
Equal machinery. Okay. Matt, you were so desperate to disregard my arguments towards
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you mentioned he was Formula E champion, wasn't champion the year after, and also his championship first year with Formula E technically was kind of gifted to him. Because basically it was between him and 3 others as the championship fight. Mitch Evans, who was basically going to be in contention for doing that, out-qualified him. And what happened on the start line? No, it didn't stall because you can't stall electric cars. Right. His car just broke down and he got crashed into.
Cars, you got told.
So basically, Nick de Vries, I think he only had to finish 5th. Was gifted the championship, whereas Mitch Evans, he was in a good position to win it straight off the bat. And then the year after, what happened? He was nowhere near the championship lead, and Stoffel van Dorn, his teammate, actually did better than him on that one.
Everything I said was facts.
It was facts, but
that's because he said he said Monza 4 times.
Yeah, facts. That's
he can drive any car.
Talking about Monza as well, he was against Nicholas Latifi as his teammate.
No, he wasn't against Nicholas Latifi.
Oh, no,
he was
in
against 19 other F1 drivers, and he finished 9th.
How many other people also retired in that race?
I don't know. You know?
A couple. I think it's like 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, that Williams was also suited to the Monza track.
And also, it's not like he jumped into that car, because I'm looking at it very much him against Nicholas Latifi. Nicholas Latifi, fuck off. He's a rubbish driver. Sorry, I can't help it.
Wow. What did he do to you?
Oh, wow, a hot
What did
take.
he do to you?
Nicholas Latifi is a bad driver. Hot take.
Have you got like a hazelnut allergy or something?
Yeah, he doesn't like
it shouldn't go in chocolate. I just don't like the taste.
What's wrong with you? It's great.
It's not for me. Anyway, his driving is not for my taste. Anyway,
how did we get onto that?
This is me trying to play along with going against your argument as much as I do agree with your argument. In that respect, then, Nick de Vries, out of all the drivers of rookies going into driving the test, he's driven with most F1 teams, so it's not like he's jumping into an F1 car completely blind. He also had a test. He also did a whole session prior with a different F1 team, already driving the track, knowing the speeds of the cars, going around that circuit. Although it's a different team.
That's why he's really good.
Well, no, because I'm saying he's already had practice.
So. It is a positive though that he can drive basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's driven more.
I'm playing along with
he's
the
driven more.
Doing devil's advocate.
New generation and him. F1 cars than anyone. No one's driven more than he has. No one. Not anyone.
And I've seen that as a negative.
That is, apparently, according to your brain.
Right, so what about my compelling arguments for Roman Grosjean?
You just kept talking about crashing.
Yeah.
You just literally kept mentioning every crash.
One of the positives that he had a fireball crash in 2020.
Yeah, he got out of it, though.
Yeah, he did. But
thank you, Halo.
Pure determination.
Yeah.
But how did he get into the barrier in the first place?
Daniel Kvyat.
We were, yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah, fair.
That wasn't a Grosjean.
Yeah.
No, but you just talked about every time he's had misdemeanors throughout his F1 career.
Not his podium with Lotus, which even then you were like, oh, it wasn't. Yeah, it was not that good. He had a podium with Lotus.
It was off the. Lotus wasn't anywhere near as good. But yeah, no. I mean, it's a tough gig. You get out.
At least you knew stuff about your driver. I didn't know fucking shit about
that. Yeah, Grosjean 2013 was fucking gas though. If it was then I actually would believe it.
Yeah.
If it was in the past.
I think I've been done there because I didn't know enough about Oscar Piastri.
The ironic thing is for me, I mean, I don't know.
That's what I'm learning about this season though, yeah.
Should we guess like whether we actually truly believed in our arguments? I think, Tommo, you were very compelling.
Thank you.
But I don't think you agree. I think.
Okay, interesting. Okay, do you think I agree?
Out of our lineup, you think, in equal machinery? I think I would agree. I think Nick is probably my pick in equal machinery. No, honestly, I think.
Okay.
Just because Oscars hasn't driven anything for a year.
So you don't believe in Piastri. You believe De Vries.
I do, yeah.
What about you?
I'd say Piastri.
Really?
Good. So you swapped.
Back junior championships is not something that happens very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, but same with Yuki.
Yuki didn't win.
Did he win F3
F2?
then? Oh, no, he won F4 then F3, I think.
No.
I know nothing, apparently. I'll see you later on, everybody. I know no facts whatsoever.
Right.
A lack of wheel knowledge.
For me,
Real knowledge, no, non-existent.
I'd say Piastri.
fuck the Feds Grosjean.
Really?
What, today?
Yeah, today. Why not? It's just equality, isn't it?
Equality of outcome.
He said Piastri. He said De Vries.
That's what we want to do beforehand,
Yeah, exactly. So
I feel like it'd be hard to with
a hard sell.
those three. Yeah, it's.
Well, let us
Really
know.
and truly,
Let us know if you're
Piastri.
watching on YouTube. Which of those three would win in equal machinery?
if
today?
you're the team principal of Andretti, who would you choose for your driver lineup as your main driver?
And if you're also watching from Andretti as well, hit us up. Invite us to a Grand Prix.
Yeah, get us
why
involved.
not? Throw the boat out.
Yeah, we'll buy your merch as well.
Yes.
We'll plug
as soon as you buy it. So as soon as you make it, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're involved.
We can hang one like a
Last
t-shirt
lap official
there.
merchandise.
Yeah.
Andretti X last lap.
Yeah, we can get sent stuff by F1 teams. We can hang it up behind us like ornaments and shit.
I'm also here as well. Thank you.
Subtle, Matt. Should we wrap it there, mate?
Sensational. Yeah, I think we should. That's been a sensational episode. Thank you very much, Matt.
Well, thank you very much for having me back on. And also welcome Minton as well. Need to give a
thank you very
like.
much, Minton.
If you enjoy the Minton content, make sure to give a like down below. He doesn't come out that often, so when you do, it's a
And he's
very,
quite
very
a
rare
quiet
treat.
dog. So again, all you audio only listening.
Apart from when he's trying to climb up onto the set.
Yeah.
You won't hear that, but we just hear like the whole way through.
Yeah.
That-
Bless him.
We should actually build out that ledge so he could walk along the top.
Just have a sleeping bed right here. Just so you
Yeah.
can have a little cozy spot on there.
You'd like that, wouldn't you, mate?
Give us a woof. Minton.
Oh, a little
Sneeze. Should everyone like and subscribe if they're watching on YouTube and maybe give 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify?
Yes.
Wow.
His first word.
Wow. Live on the last lap.
Incredible.
That's crazy. Sensational stuff.
Bless you.
You heard the man. Like and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. Give us a good rating, 5 stars on Spotify if you are the audio-only crew. And we will see you next week for the Last Lap Podcast. In a bit. Ciao, adios.
Bye.
See ya.